The Finance and Human Resources Committee to order. Stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please.
Dirk Sloopy. Ermeling, 6 excused. Hackler. Here. Egg, 6 excused. Now, he's excused. Principal.
Present.
Zadami.
Here.
Members are present and or accounted for. Any public comment? In the audience, would like to make public comment?
He's here for Crane Meadows.
Number 12.
Mm-hmm.
Must be. Okay, Crane Meadows on it?
Yes.
Very well. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else go down? Okay, go. Minutes from previous meeting. Motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting.
Very well. Motion and second. Eckberg, there's Luby. Any discussion on motion? Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carried. August budget status reports. To acknowledge.
Motion to acknowledge the August 2025 budget status report for all funds.
There's a second. Second by Dirk Sloopy. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Tip 1 and 2 legal detail reports for August. Motion to acknowledge.
To acknowledge the tip 1 and tip 2 detail reports.
It's a motion by Hackler to acknowledge the tip 1 and 2 detail reports. Is there a second? Second by Dirk Sloopy. Any discussion on the motion? No discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Legal detail for August. Motion to acknowledge. Motion by Dirk Sloopy to acknowledge the legal detail for August 2024. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Hackler. Any discussion on the motion? Very well. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Moving right along here. Results of the compensation options survey. This year, yeah.
Mm-hmm. At the last meeting, it was requested if we would just put out a survey to staff about total compensation, just to ask the question, if an increase was provided and it was a flat dollar amount, where would you want to see that increase placed into wage and benefits, or all benefits? And then if not a dollar amount, if not money amount, what are some other things that might be of interest in a total compensation package? So the results of the survey are in here. We had 31 staff participate. It was not mandatory to participate, and participation was anonymous.
That's a good turnout.
Yeah, we have 38 full-time, so.
Was this full and part-time then participated, or you don't know?
The part-time could have, but it's very limited. I mean, we have a couple seasonals that would have gotten the email along with part-time in planning and zoning. So, but the overwhelming response was that they'd like to see it go into that wage number 20 out of the 31. And then far as the most popular would be an additional 8-hour floating holiday for items that would not be dollar amount money related. And then we had a couple that we filled in just for them to start thinking, paid volunteer time off, increase in the cell phone reimbursement, or paid gathering opportunities, social opportunities. Some of the other ones that were suggested by staff, I just had included in the memo, which were gym memberships or membership to Green Heck Turner, floating holiday on your birthday, farmers market tokens, use of the wash bay or facilities in the garage, payment in lieu of health insurance, and longevity benefit. So I just thought that those were interesting. I know that topics come up a couple times on additional items, but by and large, an additional floating holiday of some sort was the first choice. But that was just informational purposes. It was asked just to kind of get a gauge of what people were thinking, and so we wanted to bring it back and share it.
Were there any increases in any of the other benefits? This is probably Jessica question. I don't know what other, I haven't seen our full benefit package, but I assume there's short long-term disability and vision and all that other jazz.
That's all offered. There has been no changes.
So, okay, so that hasn't changed, good.
I know, or additions. There hasn't been something that's, yeah, like not even that would be 100% employee paid, but like an additional option. I don't know that we've had anything like that.
But the cost on that is hasn't changed last year. Like your vision is the same last year versus this year.
We did not get renewal notices for that yet. So we have not gotten, if there's gonna be a change in vision, we have not received that information yet.
Usually those changes for vision and dental though are not as extreme as they are for
Well,
health.
vision is all employee.
Mhm.
So the only thing now is dental. We usually work with Corey on that, and I plan on working with Corey, but right now she's really caught up in health insurance. What happened is Everest Metro left our self-insured plan. We do have a fund balance, so next year I believe we'll be fine. If we have more claims than revenues, we'll just use some of that fund balance, but in the future, we'll probably have to have a review of that to see if we have enough people to continue to be self-insured.
For dental, just
dental.
dental.
What is everyone on the board think as far as moving? So yeah, 73,680 at 3%. 2.9 was the CPI as indicated. So 73,680 is slightly over, right? And it's pretty rounded. But what are your thoughts on that? Increase to only wage versus, and then the employee absorbs, there's 11% on the entire premium, and the employee, it wouldn't be 90-10 anymore. It's going to be 80-20 or something, right?
When you think about it, because I always say there's a difference between a percentage and a flat dollar amount. So did they understand that the percentages might adjust?
We asked the question if it was provided as a flat dollar amount.
Okay.
So, and it didn't take into account if we were going to adjust percentages for insurance at this point. We just took it as if you were provided the flat dollar amount, where would you like to see it?
But do they understand that if they say I haven't absorbed my $1,000, that there might be an adjustment on the amount of percentage that they might have to pay for insurance?
I think there was an understanding that if that increased, they knew they would take up that increase, but they'd rather see it added to the total wage amount than off of the benefit amount.
I think their percentage in the dollar amount can be dramatic. I mean, they expect that, oh, well, if they were going to pay 90%, we'll continue to 90% versus you're paying so so much per employee based on $1,000 to get eaten up and then some.
Right now, I guess we'll wait till health insurance. That was just a survey, just to see where their
Yeah.
feelings were. I talked to some employees, I reminded them the need for it to go to their wages, because that goes to retirement. WRS is based off their wages, so, and just have them think about the significant impact if we were to put it to benefit versus wages. I thought that was important to it.
It impacts every employee differently too. I mean, if you're a single plan or a family plan or not even on the plan, it varies based on person.
But the dollars in packets, you have to refigure. If in the budget, we approved 72,680 or 73,000, whatever that number is, we didn't approve 150,000, an extra 75,000 for health insurance, right? So that 75,000 for health insurance, the employee wants to absorb according to the survey, but if I'm reading it right, and so they would absorb that entire cost. So it's now a 75-25 split or something. Like, sure, you'll get the 3% raise, but you will also no longer be at a 90-10 split, and your $100 a month for insurance is now $100 a month or whatever that looks like. Because that other $75,000 wasn't approved and budgeted.
But it is budgeted right now, correct?
11% is budgeted right now. An 11% increase. So the split is the way that it is budgeted right now, the split stays the same. But I mean, there is a cost increase, but the divide still stays the same. Again, for purposes of the question, if in the past, not saying we have to do that going forward, but in the past, we've never done a flat dollar amount. We've always done it as the percentage and the split. So if we went to that method of flat, it would be this much dollar amount. What staff is saying is that they'd like that to go to wage, and they would do that. But that isn't how we've done it in the past. That was just to get a pulse on what that would be.
So hypothetically, then be like, say $150,000 is available. Where would that go if the scenario was it can go to one or the other? So I mean, this is essentially the 50-50 split scenario. 50% roughly is going to wage and 50% is going to benefit.
So, but if there's only 73,000 available,
Then that's where that would come into play. So right now the budget has the 150.
my intent of the question when I asked it was, there's only 73,000 available. Do you want that to go to your benefit package? We'll use 75, right? Because it's close and it's. So instead of $150,000 budget impact at the end of this to increase, we still have $150,000 saver shortfall, right? They're trying to work through. So this eats half of it. This eats half of it.
So we're jumping ahead. Maybe we want to just read the next agenda item and then we'd go into that discussion. Because then we're under budget.
Discussion and or action. So this is old business on 2025 budget.
I'd read down the whole list. We'll talk through
Update to
them.
the village aid plan for 2025, aid grid-in plan for 2025, 2025 staff compensation increase, 2025 merit market reserve, 2025 health plan benefits update design, updated capital improvement plan.
Yep.
Okay. So
So,
now we're kind of doing 8 and 9 together, sort of.
well, they kind of funnel together, and Jessica can stop me at any point in time. But I understand there's a piece of this through the budget workshop that the board is seeing those budget worksheets, and finance and HR is just seeing that benefits and compensation piece. At this moment, with the 11% increase in insurance, which we don't know that number yet, but with that 11% increase in insurance, we are balanced in general. That might change depending on where we come back with insurance, but we are balanced in general. And that does take into account the increase that we would experience with SAFER. Now, we talked about at the board meeting that there might be some alternative methods on how we account for that for the next 2 years because of wanting to possibly delay a referendum, but that's not necessarily the purview of finance and HR. You would be making the recommendation to say, this is what we feel for wage and benefits, and then we would take that back to the board on how does that fit into the budget.
I tend to disagree with some of that. I agree with the HR side of it, but since we've combined the Finance and Human Resources Committee, the Finances Committee's job is to look at the overall finances of the village.
We,
Weston, right? Didn't I
we
just sign a
voted
voucher
not
for
to do that,
Yeah,
remember? That was a couple meetings ago, the Finance HR Committee agreed to just look at the wages and compensation for the 2025 budget. If you want to change that, we could obviously relook at it.
Sure.
but that's why we set the schedule with the budget
Okay.
workshops.
So if you'd like me to assert that better in 45 minutes, I can surely do that in a different manner.
Yep.
So here, I think we need to look at then if we have $150,000 available or if we have $75,000 available. Right now, we have $150,000 available. In 45 minutes, you might only have $75,000 available. So maybe we can look at both options of what that would look like. Does that sound more fair, Jamie?
Either way, general budget is balanced with 11% increase. If it comes back more than that, that's another conversation, but at this moment, general fund is balanced. But maybe we'll, going a step further into this agenda item, I had just put in the 3 items that we would be looking for recommendation for. First would be the village pay grid or pay plan, and we would be proposing adding 3%. That's no impact to the budget. That's just keeping that pay grid and plan up to date. We like to update that every 3 to 5 years. But that would essentially be saying someone leaves us, we have to bring someone in. This gives us our minimum, midpoint, and maximum for that position. So there is a draft pay plan with that 3% added in the packet. The second piece would be that recommendation for staff increases. There is a 3% placeholder in the budget, and that $73,000 is what that equates to in the general budget. And then for merit and market, we do have a $15,000 placeholder. Again, you'll have to fill out that merit or market form, and the department head would have to put in there the justification of why they'd want merit, moving them closer to the midpoint of the pay grid. I'm sorry, a market, moving them closer to the midpoint, or a merit would be over the 100% midpoint. And we've had that conversation here on what that would mean in justification. But it would just be approving that $15,000 placeholder in the budget. Last year, I know that there was a higher percentage that was recommended by HR. HR recommended a 4%. In the end, the board recommended the 3%, but that difference was put into market and merit because we had just got done with the pay study, and that helped to move some people to the midpoint that were lower on the scale after we had done that compensation study. I do have that piece in here about health insurance too. What we've gotten from Spectrum at this point is just preliminary. We do know that we will see an increase, but they're trying to work through with their providers, which is security, on what that increase potentially could come down to negotiate that. So I don't know that tonight we want to make any changes to that because we just don't have a firm answer back from Spectrum.
Jamie,
Mhm.
I have a question regarding the 3% staff compensation increase, and then you've got the separate for merit market. Is the 3% staff compensation increase just cost of living, CPI increase, period across the board regardless of performance?
That would be correct.
Okay, and then the additional merit market would be reserved based off of market, which is usually black and white, if you're basing it on like number of years of experience versus the merit, which is performance based. And are you using the new performance review tool, old tool to justify the merits?
We would be using the new tool, which I sent out to department heads and we talked about it at our last all staff meeting, just so all staff could see it and know what they would be evaluated on this fall. So that would be, it would be based off that new tool.
So is there? Struggling with my words tonight. Is there a structured plan of if an employee gets X on their performance review, then they get additional Y merit increase? And have you budgeted enough for this 15,000? Like if everyone goes above that and they all get an extra 1%, like how did that 15,000 come in? Or are we backing into it?
I would say the later.
Okay.
15,000 came into play. That's what we had put into the budget last year. Again, we did move that percentage over, but I think the performance evaluation, certainly you would have to have that high achieving score on that performance evaluation, but then there would still be that justification form that would have to be completed by the department head. So if it was going to be a merit-based, it would have to be the combination of the two being brought forward.
That is that, so the directors will complete the justification form and then it will go to you for review to make sure that it's equitable and fair.
Yeah, they would.
And that no one is being treated unjustly that is currently in jobs that are similar, those type of things. Is that gonna be looked at?
Yep, it would come to me first. We would assemble that information with the department heads and then it would be brought here and the board.
Okay, gotcha.
Yep, for approval. And we did that in closed session and then the committee and the board got to see all of the justification forms. You wouldn't see all of the performance evaluations, but you would see that justification form for all the staff that would be brought forward.
One of the things just to make sure that's done in those sessions is to look at all the scores. And if anyone's getting another merit increase that is either below someone else that's not getting it, is to look at some of the factors that might be a landmine waiting to explode in their pay act. Make sure that they are equitably treated. A female is getting a score of a 4, and the male has a score of 4. The male's getting merit increase. They have the same score in the same positions. Just make sure that we've got good justification for that.
I appreciate you bringing it up though. It's always good to have the awareness.
So is the 73,680, that 3%, it's really 90,000, right? Because it's 3% plus 15,000, correct? Or does that 73,000 include the 15,000 merit mark?
No, 73 doesn't include the 15. The 15's, yeah, it's kind of,
So it's actually 90.
if you add it, the two together, yes. Again, these are placeholders. We got to put a placeholder in.
If you add that 15,000, that's more than 3%. That's not 3%.
But it wouldn't be 3% depending on, the 15,000 isn't,
Guaranteed.
yes,
Right.
yeah, it's not distributed.
So everyone gets 3% no matter what. That was what you're saying. And
Yes.
then there is $15,000 that could be applied based on performance. So is that our direction that we want to give forward, is we want to give everyone a 3% raise no matter what? Good guy, bad guy, otherwise. All bad performer.
So I guess that generally it's been, as long as they are meeting expectations. If somebody is a low performer, they haven't always been guaranteed that CPI increase.
Well, then we really can't call it CPI increase.
I'd have to look to see what the exact language in policy is, but we did require that everybody have a satisfactory performance evaluation on file last year before the percentage was given.
Satisfactory, refresh my memory on 1 to 5, is that 3?
That's a
Or
3.
is that 1?
No, it's a 3.
had one, but they're no longer with.
So essentially everyone is getting this.
Everyone that would have a satisfactory performance evaluation. I am not aware of anyone that would not be provided a satisfactory performance evaluation at this moment.
Does that change? It does. You know, in the last meeting, we talked more about pay for performance or, and then I think you had a more politically correct HR term for that, but
Just there.
sure.
Because if one's unsatisfactory, I always say a flat wage increase based on some status. It's nice to have a little sort of bumps up market.
And is the intent to use all $15,000 of this, or this is the,
I think if it's there, it will likely be utilized, yes.
And we get a recommendation to that.
For the board, yep.
so really you have, Jessica, can you help me with the math? Is that like 0.5% merit increase is all that an employee would have the opportunity to be afforded? Can you take that 15,000 and spread it out between all the employees?
But you don't do that though. The 15,000 does not get spread out among all employees.
Well, it would be a bank for everyone to draw from, right? So all the department heads can draw from this 15,000 to spread it out to 40 employees, right? So if there's only $15,000 to go for 40 employees, that means the most the guy can get is what, 33 cents or something?
You may run out that $15,000 after 2 to 3 people.
Or
It's
there's
not
only
for
3 people
everybody.
that are gonna get a $5,000 raise. Am I going down the right path here, or am I totally wrong?
It would not necessarily be divided between all staff, no.
All
Dep-
staff shouldn't be getting merit increases.
Yeah. Department heads would be putting forth either individuals that they think are below the midpoint that should be brought up in order to stay competitive, or again, that did above and beyond expectations that would be getting a merit. But even last year when we did merit and market, not everyone got a merit or market increase.
Which makes sense. They shouldn't. I'm just saying is that, do we have that number skewed? I think that number is skewed wrong, but
If you feel that it's not a great proportion, one would say, well, maybe we should consider a 2% wage increase for everybody and shove more merit. I mean, that's why we're bringing it to you. What is a good split there? Or should we just not even offer merit? Maybe everyone's 33%, and we can't afford anymore, and that's done. I mean, that's where we're bringing this for recommendations. Nothing is set in stone right now.
And this is just the general fund, so. I oversee our 3 utilities, our enterprise funds, and we have employees that get paid essentially $0 out of the general fund. So it's not necessarily all employees either that.
Yeah, the 74,000 does not, 73 does not represent all employees. It's focusing on the general fund.
We focus on general fund because that's where the levy amount is.
I prefer you not to give 5% to utilities and 3% for the general fund, because the utilities can afford more. That's why we bring back what is acceptable in the general fund, and that's what gets shoved over to the utilities also.
We always come back to the compensation philosophy. Since I've been on this committee of, do we want to pay everyone the same regardless of their work ethic, work performance, or do we want to reward and recognize that for good performance? That's really the philosophy that needs to come back and be decided. But I don't think if you're doing a 3% increase in pay grade for the pay scales, that you could necessarily reduce that cost of living that's being proposed. I think if you bring that down by 2%, I don't know that you can afford to increase that 2% because then your employees are gonna start being compressed to the lower end of the scale. So I don't think you can do one without the other. So 3% on the pay scale, I would recommend that we be consistent with 3% across the board, and then of the $15,000, that's left for merit, but making sure that you have a very good written documented plan on how that merit is going to be awarded to staff.
The value of a merit raise, trying to a merit. You don't have that done a lot of times, I mean, it's not sometimes because a lot of people, everybody feels like they deserve it. When it comes down to it, you gotta have documentation, but I think it's a valuable tool to encourage people to strive. Yeah, I think that's right, if we're gonna raise the total compensation scale, we've gotta raise that.
Yep. As long as there's a stall, I didn't mean to even talk during this time, but I can't help it.
So maybe you missed public comments or?
I guess I did, thank you, but that's not.
Second.
If you don't mind.
Yeah.
So the last couple of years with the $15,000 or whatever this fund is, what percentage have we used? What did we use last year?
We used all of it.
All, okay, so really, it's about a 3.75 is what the amount is. I get real trouble, and I've heard it, from the professionals, how we are declaring merit and performance. I'm really troubled by it, because it's so personal here. It just is so personal, and everyone knows each other so well, and it's, I just sometimes don't think everyone is removed enough. So we're rewarding people, I mean, a couple of years ago, because they worked overtime during the election, and they got a bonus that year. And, this money, if you give someone $500, it stays. It goes and goes and goes. These aren't bonuses. This stays. And, and I look at our public safety. So I look at the women and men that go in homes that are burning, or they're saving lives, or shooting someone, or protecting someone, involved in those things. And I've been to some pinning ceremonies, and then an honor at the state level. After you've been off for several weeks doing your job exemplary, then you're actually okay, but then you get a notice or a ribbon. There is no money, for public safety. It is what it is. It's, so I'm very troubled with the 15 when the cautions and the red flags go up by the professionals. It is a true caution, because it could be tested, and I doubt we would win the test. I just do. I don't know if there's enough documentation throughout the year. And I just feel, I've been here, 3 times, and this time now 5 or 6 years straight. I feel a very tight closeness here, even me. So I would just be careful with it. I'm done.
Things we're considering is moving away from our merit-based, because it is full of a lot of tension and stress out. And we have regular check-ins that we are required to do throughout the year and document. But instead of doing like a merit-based, we actually provide potentially bonuses for people who go above and beyond at the time they go above and beyond versus.
The bonus is one thing,
Yeah.
and then it goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still spend the money, but it's done. It doesn't keep going
Right.
for the next 20 years.
So something that I know that we're considering.
I think if we do something like that, which is fine. I mean, in Public Works, I can speak for what we have there. I mean, we've got, 15 people who in some way, shape, form, somewhat do the same job at times. And it'd almost be going back to kind of a union template where you do these jobs and you get paid X. I mean, right now we move people along as they gain new skill sets and they learn how to do more tasks or they get additional certifications. They move into a new classification and then they start at the kind of bottom of that pay scale. and work their way towards the market rate of that pay scale, whereas somebody who's been doing that job for 20 years, they're already at market or maybe in merit. So I guess if that's something we want to do, we would have to do some kind of realignment, I would think almost right away so that, I'm saying there's people that kind of do the same job or they have the same title, but they're not paid the same because they have different experience doing that job. So we do document that difference as far as why Joe is here and Bob is here and Bill is there. Yeah. So that we don't run into that situation of why is this guy getting paid more than me?
So should we break this down some? So we'll look at the update to the village pay grid and pay plan 25. So a motion on that. Motion to upgrade the update the pay plan pay grid for 2025 by 3% as presented in the packet.
77.
77. Is there a second? Discussion.
So there is no $15,000 in there.
This is just the pay grade.
Yeah, I think we'll get there.
That's separate.
That's
separate,
that
right.
compensated. I think that's the next
That's
one down.
moving all the pay ranges up.
So this is just for this is to impact compensation none. This is just to impact the grid of the pay plan. It does not change anyone's actual wage. Discussion on that. All those in favor of updating the pay plan grid, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Okay. 2025 staff compensation increases. Is there a motion on this here? This, I think, is where you get to talk about what you're talking about here.
I would make a motion to adjust staff wages by 3% as long as they are meeting the minimum required for their jobs. I think you said it was score 3 across the board. For 2025.
So a motion to increase this all staff or only hourly staff?
This be all staff.
This is all staff at 3% rate as long as they have a 3 or higher satisfactory performance review.
A performance review on file. On file.
Current performance review,
Yep.
right, relating to the last 12 months.
I think it should be recommended to the board.
I think that's what
That's what we
it was,
do.
right?
Yep.
This was
It
the
should be
recommendation to the
included.
board of trustees.
So we would recommend it to the board.
Okay. So, motion is to recommend to the board of trustees a 3% across the board increase for all staff wages if they have a satisfactory or higher performance review reflecting the last 12 months. Okay. Discussion. As you were, is there a second? Okay. Second, discussion. What if we have an employee not here 12 months?
Last year, they had to be here for the majority of the year. So if we had someone that was here for 6 or less, I don't believe that they had received, they did not receive the increases of January 1. But in those cases, several of them were brought on and then needed to achieve some additional skills, and then an increase was given licensure or training, and it was given when those things were achieved.
If someone has a title within the last 12 months. We have at least 2 individuals at least 4 that have been promoted within the last 3 months.
So I would say in both of those cases, those individuals, though, would still have been with us for the majority of the year, so they would be eligible as of January 1. In one case, they had received their licensure, so they were later in the year. They didn't get the January 1, but got that for the licensure. And in the other case, it would be performance of better than what was hired at duties and now is reclassed to those duties. But both of them would be here for the majority of the year.
These increases would not take effect until January 1, 2025.
Yeah, they probably would take effect with like the first full payroll in January. They wouldn't be January 1, that's accounting hurtful.
Any other discussion on that? Those in favor of the 3% increase, signify by saying aye.
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 No. Those opposed? No. Motion carried.
Trustee Finsnell, can I just ask, were you asking to know or were you voting to know there?
A vote. Well, the ask and a vote.
Okay,
You
so
vote
your
for
vote
ask
was
and a vote.
in the negative.
My vote is in the negative.
Okay,
Yes. You roll call if you'd like.
no, that's okay. That's,
You're
well, that would be your choice as chair, but I just wanted to clarify
But
that.
I think 3 to 1 is still a
Yep.
passing motion. So
Yes.
we're good. Yeah. Okay. Merit market reserve, is that the next chunk on here?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motion on that?
Are you talking about the 11%?
I'm working with what I got here, Shane, I'm trying my best. I
What
think we're
I got
talking
on
about the
here-
$15,000 outfit.
I would make a motion that we recommended the board that there is a $15,000 placeholder, but further discussion as to how that is going to be divided up.
Recommends the board of trustees to hold $15,000 in the budget for merit market increases, but to take no action on merit market at this time until further discussion by the finance HR committee. Is there a second? Discussion on the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Health plan benefits, do we need to take action on that piece?
No, we will bring that back once we have some additional information, hopefully for, unfortunately in that part, the board might hear it first because we do have another budget workshop meeting next week, Monday, but we will try and keep everyone up to date as we can.
Any capital improvement plan, there was an impact on that?
Nope, we don't have an update. That's just a placeholder as we continue to work with Ellers to get back our updated plan.
Now on the business number 10, discussion and action review on fee schedule. Who's this?
Didn't know if you wanted to put a motion on the floor, so I was waiting.
No, I think we do it all backwards here. Robert's rules put a while ago, so.
So there is a RFC in the packet. We had a conversation when we needed to have a special meeting about updating our fee schedule related to if a special meeting would be required of the board. That led to a much larger discussion about all of the fees because they haven't really been reviewed in depth since 2017. So there is the RFC in the packet, but then, and the resolution that would need to be adopted by the board. But then the updated fee schedule, all in track changes that would be proposed this evening. These fees wouldn't take effect until January 1, 2025, but all of the departments have reviewed fee schedule following that question. So this was a in-depth look of all department fees.
Question, sorry, because I'm new to the finance part of this committee, so forgive me. Why the $250 fee for the special board meeting?
So oftentimes Clerk Brim can do the arm and chime in if I hit this right. Sometimes when we do need a special board meeting, it requires a notice. And so it would help to compensate for that cost if it would need a notice in the paper, like a liquor license or an operator's license, it would help to cover that cost. And then also, I mean, the board understanding it's a flat wage, but a salary, but there is that additional time and staff time that would have to go into having a special meeting. And it also we do provide things in enough time to try and make a meeting schedule. If that meeting schedule is missed, it's to discourage that so we can get these things taken care of in the time frame and get them all in the paper together and keep business moving forward.
So these are special requests from the community asking for urgent meetings to get.
Yep.
Correct. Like I didn't renew my liquor license and it expires at the end of the month and I had to have it by June 1st or whatever the heck the day was, and I couldn't do it. 365 days wasn't enough. So if you guys have another special meeting, just to renew my liquor license on
Thank you.
April 30th or something. Got dates wrong there, but that's exactly what has happened multiple times in the past.
Did you want to add anything?
Well, it was just it kind of stemmed from that, because we send out notices in February for licensing. And, you know, we call, we email, and still we had some drag that came right to June 30th, when the cutoff date was where they wouldn't have a license anymore. So they would finally get their paperwork to us, and we wanted them to continue to have their license and operate. And then we had to have a special meeting. So that's how it all kind of started. And the dollar amount, I just looked at several different municipalities. I'm not saying that that's what it should be, but that's up to the board. But I mean, I've seen as high as 1,000. There has been lower, but the 251 seemed like the one that was kind of the average. So thank you.
Shane?
Did you figure out the actual cost of this
For
having additional meeting for them? What's the actual cost? Say there's 4 or 5 people on the committee, each of them gonna get paid, plus your time, plus add in the paper. These are all add up to $250, or is less than that?
well, because if the board meets, that's not an additional cost. And
No, the committee, doesn't it? No, just the board.
just the board
Well,
for
we can do it.
license.
Planning is on there too. so
Different if it's
what's the
planning,
cost for
because
planning?
Jennifer would have a whole different situation if she would have to have a special meeting.
So,
It'd be $50 times 5.
Yeah.
You know, the 2 trustees don't get paid, but the 5 commissioners get paid $50.
Plus
The
the
trustees get 40.
so
Plus the
that's
notice,
a,
plus
so
all
I
the
don't, that's
staff,
a
or I mean,
$250 there.
Kind of prep it, so it should really be 300, 350.
Yeah, 5 people get $50, that's $250. Plus the fee for the newspaper advertising, plus the time of the clerk and everybody else in there. I think $250 is less than what we spend.
Would you like to recommend something higher?
Actual cost, whatever it is. Yes.
I think it'd be more, I agree with you, but it would be more appropriate to come up with a number because.
Well, actual cost, we should figure out what's the actual cost. We're not planning to make money on it, but we want to recuperate the cost.
Sure.
But in the
So-
I'm sorry, in the licensing situation, there is no actual, because the board doesn't get paid additional, and I don't have to put that in the paper. So then that would be 0.
Right. So you can say that's 0, that's 500. I'm just grabbing a number.
Which is, in that case, for a special board meeting, we did the 250. I think Jennifer and the planning and development staff, they did a lot of analysis on like what were their real true costs on these and their increase. So we have reflected what those, we have taken that into account in many of them, but what it actually cost us to provide that service.
And in the case of plan commission, that's just getting them in the room, because it's usually a hearing notice, which is going to have either, there'll be a conditional use or rezone, and the site plan with it, so those fees they'll incorporate with whatever they're doing. So it was really just to raise the fee, to make sure we are covering for the extra for those 5 non-trustees.
As long as we get our costs back, I'm happy.
Well, we weren't getting any back before, so it's, yeah, we were at 0 before for special board meetings.
What is the actual, I mean, it says this wasn't updated since 17. What is our actual operational cost difference between 17 and now?
Did that before, it was a rather large increase in wages.
Well, right, but I mean, you guys still want to get paid to come here, right? I guess what I'm looking at is, if our cost of business has increased since 17, there's a lot of stuff on here that's just black. Hasn't changed. If our cost of business has increased since 2017, and we're not increasing our cost of service as a, how do you
We
continue to
also
operate?
look at other municipalities, so we go to the other municipalities, get their fee schedules, and in the past, we were always encouraged to be competitive to what others are doing. So that's where some of those non-changed numbers are. Some might be statute, like we can't go over a certain amount. That's the pool stuff, it needs to go through committee before all that would be changed.
Through the park?
Yeah.
But there wasn't a recommended increase for admission at this point for next year. And that's not to say this piece is kind of maybe brought up that this really should be reviewed annually. But I think there was always this thought of, we want it to stay competitive or to stay a little bit lower. So I wouldn't make the perfect the enemy of the good. This is a really good update and brings us up, and we can look at it again now annually after that.
There's a lot that have increased by more. Really high. I see where your sanction is it equalizing between the cost of doing business compared to the increases that we see when we put this out to the village of Weston. People see some pretty significant increases on some things.
The pet fee I see went down. Is that because it's cheaper to have us do it? Or I'm not against lowering the cost. I'm just trying to look for justification of why those are blue numbers instead of red numbers. I'm guessing red is higher and blue is lower, but I don't know that.
No, it was just the track
depends on who
changes.
looked at it.
But one, we wanted to encourage people to license, and 2, with the move to doing it in-house, it is the pet data, you paid like a fee, a commission fee off of the license. It's not structured exactly that way with the county, but I think some of the thought was it's a little confusing with microchip, without microchip, and ultimately what we want people to do is license their animals.
Yeah, we should save, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but not going through pet data, we should save like $5,000 right off the bat. Because it's about 5,000 or 6,000 just using them. Yep. So and we don't have to buy dog tags either, they come from the county, that's a minor expense, but, so there's a savings right there.
We wanted also to make it simpler, so because our staff are not entering them, I didn't want 10 options. So we wanted to get it done faster and encourage people to license.
Yeah, we should revisit that. The aquatic center, I think we should maybe look at those rates. They don't have to increase significantly. I know they did go up, but we may have the only functioning pool in the area. throw money into, right? So if it's $1 more to get there, or 50 cents more to get there, it helps pay the bill of the pool. It's expensive to run a pool. As long as it's not $350 to show up like Noah's Ark, and then you probably get some people in the pool chairs. Commercial occupancy reinspection. Get my page here. Page 89, I think. Commercial permit fees. Does that even cover our costs? $75.
On a commercial occupancy inspection, currently it does cover the cost.
Well, for the reinspection, I guess what I'm getting at is, you're only coming back to reinspect because you didn't pass, right?
Yeah.
So the idea is you should be incentivized for, hey, let's pass this, and if I have to come back, it should cost me more when I have to come back. If I have to come back 3 and 4 and 5 and 13 times in order to get the green check mark in the box, it should cost me money when I have to send Rowan back 14 times, right? We should look at that.
We can definitely look at it. I'd be more than happy to increase it because we do an exorbitant amount of re-inspections.
And that's what I mean, like, you guys do an excellent job, you're there, I would much rather see you on project 49 instead of back on project 3 for the 4th time, or 14th time.
I can't disagree with you.
The cell tower costs, that's probably too low. I can see it at 250.
Which page is cell tower on? Oh, there we go, sorry. Are class 1 and class 2 regulated at all by anything else but us? Can we set the fee for that?
I think we can set the fee for it.
Okay,
We haven't had any issues previously.
okay,
There's, essentially, that's registering who's doing the project, collecting their structural plans, verification of completion.
But they're not gonna knock your permit, they have to do it.
Correct.
You can offset some of these costs by doing that.
Each antenna is probably upgraded every 2 years.
Residential reinspection fee, that was removed, unless I read that wrong.
Was it removed or just?
There's a lot of lines in
Yep, no,
red and,
We reworked this probably almost 6 weeks ago, so it's been a little while since I've been in that. We update.
92, it looks like
I think
it's
it
at
got
75.
I believe you, when I read through it, I thought it was,
It's charged after each failed inspection, $60 is crossed out and 75 is.
very well, I'm good on that. Solar on the roof is $200 and ground is $250. Why is it more on the ground than on the roof,
There's a site plan review that goes with the ground mounted,
but not roof?
no, because it has to meet accessory structure setbacks and parameters with the ground mounted unit. So there's additional review that goes with it.
You actually crawl on the roof and look at these solar panels on the roof, like you have to do that?
I don't have to get up there, I gotta use.
And that's fine, you got a new one, it's not in service yet, I don't think.
No, as far as, the panels, we don't inspect the panels, those are proprietary panels, all the connections up there. We inspect basically everything from the roof penetration down to the metering socket and into the panel.
For the layman reading
That's what's
this, so I'm thinking, if you gotta inspect a rooftop solar panel, it's probably a little more labor intensive than the one in your backyard, but thanks for the clarification. commercial accessory structures are a lot more. They require planning commission review anyways, and that's another $250. So that would be $250 for planning commission review. I'm not sure, somebody can walk me through one of those, please.
Did you jump back up? You jumped back up?
92. Under miscellaneous permit fees, accessory structure.
Thank you.
Those are fee modification due again. Accessory structure for non-residential went from 100 to 300.
300.
But then you also have to do,
For the accessory structure.
So that's the base, non-residential up to 2,000 square feet, and then after 2,000 square feet, it's regulated as a principal structure.
so if I'm gonna put a garden shed at my store, and I'm gonna put a light bulb in it, it's gonna cost me $300 plus $250 for a planning commission review. Plus $40 for an electrical inspection, right?
That is correct. Okay, that's what we have adjusted to.
There you go.
That's.
That's fine, I'm good with that, just making sure that's what we're doing. On the decking, is this down a couple three? Not including redecking with like material. So if I redeck with like materials, it's $0, it's a free event, there's no permit, no inspection, no charge.
If you're not changing in that particular permit for construction. If it's replacing like for like on the decking, then there is no permit for it. If you're changing material, like from standard wood decking boards to composite, there's a lot of code triggers that go with that. Okay, because the structural components typically are gonna need to be different.
Can we clarify the words on that?
Yeah.
Please, thank you. The lawn mowing, I think it's on that page. It was changed to cost. Right? Shouldn't that include some kind of a fee or a penalty? Otherwise, we're just, I'll just have the village come cut my grass, and you guys can pay for it. Why, you could be my general contractor, Roman, and you let me know. It's getting a little long, I'll just call and come down 5,000 Arrow.
Right.
Cover it up. Send me the bill.
So, the fine, and then there also is, associated lawn mowing fees, that's all contracted out typically to Riverside.
Well, wasn't the fine removed? Didn't I, or is this is where all the crossouts, it just says
Nothing in
cost.
there. I don't know if you guys have been charging fines since Renee stopped.
Josh, I'm gonna have to sell that lawnmower back to you, I don't need it anymore.
I also don't know how many we have had now with the cooperation with Mountain Bay Metro of people that have said, I'm just not gonna do it. I think,
It's usually a house that we either need to get working on a raise order on because they're not there anymore, or, there's other issues on the property. We've got, I think there's two. We have to go through a different process. I think that's why it's fine. That's why I removed it, because we worked with Matt Edie and we have to post it, and there's different regulations than how it was done.
So you can't impose a fine, or?
I do not believe we can, but we can look into that. They haven't been giving one, we've just been doing it at cost. Because what happens is, so there's one on Mount View and there's one on Mesker, they never know. They're also delinquent in taxes. So it essentially gets posted usually in late May, early June, and then
and for the rest of the year, just go in, it's one, we send somebody.
So about 4 to 6 times a year, Riverside's there to hack down the tall grass. And then it gets charged on their tax as a special assessment. But just for the cost of cutting, not for staff time or anything else, or is staff time built into this cost? Because it shows actual cost. I mean, clearly you have time and you have time
We
and
could.
everyone else has time and found a mistake in their yard and send an email to Edie or whatever y'all gotta do.
That could be put in there, yeah. I don't think they've done that.
Police department assistance does $95 an hour cover the cost of an officer if it's overtime.
It does.
Okay.
So if, some people aren't making as much as others, and by the time we get to the end of it, like we have Tomahawk, we just spent about $19,000 for Tomahawk system. It does average out, and we get rates at from last year. We keep looking at it every year.
The cost for copying, 1.3 cents per page. I get it, but is there no, that might be what Yo Johnson charges us, but we're not gonna pay Rachel to go pick it out the copier and hand it through the window. It's not an actual cost. Right, Rachel still get paid.
I believe there's some statutory stuff that we can only charge so much for those, correct?
I don't know about copies. I'm only familiar with the open records request. There's statutory fees for that. But copies, I'd have to look into that to see if that's part of it. I don't know offhand.
Sherry came up with that.
$40 an hour for GIS stuff. Does anybody even use GIS? I get it, you gotta have it on there, but we can build that outside. Trying to homeowner come in or a business owner come in and do GIS stuff with us or.
There have been sometimes runs or organizations that have requested special maps.
And $40 per hour does cover that. I got time material with what we're working with.
Probably.
Depends on how many revisions, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, it's
Per
per hour.
If it's per hour, you can revise it 1,000 times or 0 times, so per hour. What's your guy get paid per hour? The water inspection, the lateral inspection,
So I held off on all the utility items because we're, item, what, 13 is, we're talking about sewer rates, so once. Yeah, we know we need to update some of our meter costs and inspection costs. Wait until we knew what the sewer rate would be before we check this up a few times.
and the last one I got, I promise. Under the emergency medical service fees, $25 per hour for a firefighter, that seems kind of low now. Page 96, just turn it down, it's 25.
25 per firefighter per hour, I mean, it's more than they make.
Right, you got fuel in a truck, you got a truck sitting there. If this were a snowplow that Michael showed up with.
But the truck is an additional 500 per hour.
Okay. So $25 per hour covers your costs, I'm good. Do we need a motion on this here?
yep, this would be a recommendation to board. It's on the board agenda tonight too. Trustee Pinstelt, if you're gonna make a motion, then if you wanted to include it all, if you wanted that commercial reinspection hire, the cell tower hire, and the decking wording clarified and copying more, those were the 3 that would be changes. I think other than that, the rest were questions that got answered. The 4 that would be changes.
Very well. So to recommend the board of trustees, the approval of the updated fee schedule as submitted with fees effective 1/1/25, and safer fees subject to safer board approvals, and. Is that again, Jamie?
Commercial reinspection fees raised,
Reevaluated,
okay,
commercial reinspection fees reevaluated,
cell tower reevaluated,
self-cover fees reevaluated,
decking wording clarified,
checking wording clarified,
and copying reevaluated.
cost to provide copies and GIS services reevaluated.
Okay, and GIS.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Oh, perfect. So there's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Boucher?
Yeah, question for Chief. The $95 an hour includes your mileage?
Well, yeah, like I said, some people are making more and some people are making less. So we don't necessarily figure the car in there, but we try to get that average high enough on that hourly rate that we're collecting money back, and they have a 2-hour minimum on those. So there's some cancellation, but we review that all the time, and it seems like we're coming out ahead or equal on that. For example, Tomahawk, we sent 8 guys up to Tomahawk. There's 15 cars up there, so it was just travel time, and then they work the streets up in Tomahawk. So, some will win, some will lose, but at the end of the day, it's 6 million.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion on the motion? All those in favor of recommending to the Board of Trustees the fee schedule as presented with changes, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say no. Carried. New business, discussion and action on AR write-offs.
We went through our accounts receivable. What you are going to see are some that we're looking at putting on the tax rolls. We actually write off from our accounts receivable system. And then the second half are personal property tax that we can no longer.
Question as to why we can no longer collect.
The amount of the collection, like the $2, is not worth collecting, and some of those are no longer in business.
And we're not doing personal property tax 24, right?
Now
So
it's all done.
$80 or whatever left for it. All right, is there a motion on this one?
I recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the accounts receivable write-off as presented.
Motion by Boucher. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Linda. Motion to approve the accounts receivable write-offs as presented. Discussion on the motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Discussion or action on the current lease arrangement with Crane Meadows. Jamie, anything on that one?
There was a memo in the packet. The lease was emailed out to the committee in late August, and it was asked to return back for consideration. We have looked at a series of the leases that the village has here at the meeting. The most recent before this was our one with the town of Weston. Trustee Pinsnelt had asked that I would get from the assessor just approximate estimates, what the assessed value of the 14 acres that we currently lease to Crane Meadows for the driving range would be if it was the land uses that you see there up on the screen, and what that approximate tax bill would come to. So that was included in the packet along with the additional copy of the lease. And Dan is here tonight too. He is the owner of Crane Meadows and who's currently renting that property as a driving range for the golf course across the street.
Dan? Any questions, comments, concerns?
I was the one
brought here.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Dan, can you state your address for the record, please?
6304 Weston Ave, that's my home address.
Thank you.
It's kind of one of those situations where, the driving range is, for us, is much more of a community benefit than a business benefit. If it was up to me, we would have closed it about 1 year after we opened it, because it is, as the police would know, I've had probably 5 or 6 fisticuffs scenarios. I've replaced 3 windows rather. PGA, we caught 1 person and probably had no less than 10 to 15 people hitting in the PGA's parking lot. And that's cost us financially because we like to be good neighbors, even though we're not technically responsible. We pay for all of that. It is by far a headache, but all of everybody that comes and uses it really appreciates it because location is nice. The next nearest would be Rib Mountain, and then there's discussions about Rib Mountain closing for development purposes. Then other than that, it's private, or you're going to Trap River or Mosinee. So I'd love to close it, but I don't think I can. If someone wants to take over the lease and run it as a golf course, I'd help them. Greatly. Including giving them all of the golf balls that we replace at $2,000 a year every year because so many people steal them. Not that I'm bitter about it.
Boy, I'll tell you, that's some wild stories stuff there.
I could go on.
Yeah.
So I had asked this to come back. We reviewed all of the property that the village has, all of the lease arrangements that we have, and some of them weren't reflective of the current market value, right, or status. Obviously, if that parcel were, if the driving range evaporated tomorrow, sounds like you really want to happen, but no one else does, I wouldn't mind. And there would be $800 that don't show up in the general fund, right? So that's a bad thing. But is $800 the right amount? It doesn't look like the lease has been updated since 18, if I'm reading this right.
That $800 came because the farmer, the land before being developed to PGA and retention pond was being rented for $800. That was like 30 acres or something like that. And so came here, talked to the board. They said, we'll just do the same lease as that one. That's how that was done.
Making sure that feel that's fair and equitable and should stay the same, or consistent.
Yeah, at that time, I thought I had these grandiose ideas of profit and benefits to the golf course, and now it's turned into more headache. So I feel it's very fair.
Okay. Discussion on that or motion? Shane, you're pretty quiet. I see you out there a couple times a week. Maybe it's just the hit balls at the PGA. I don't know, but
I think I was sitting here when they leased it to him, if I remember right. Mr. Maloney made a motion.
Yep.
No, I said the same thing. I was on the board then, and we were thrilled to get $800.
Yeah,
Do nothing with it, and plus it helped, like you said, the community.
it was actually talked about more so as being community based
Right.
at that time because it was an overgrown field.
Yep.
That took us a lot of effort to get to be
They were
grass.
gonna maintain it, and I had no clue about the rest.
Yeah, me neither. Thanks.
Jennifer, you don't have to send Riverside down there to cut the grass, right? They just do it themselves. That's a new thing we're doing now. I guess we cut grass for people.
It might be cheaper.
I get the golf course set up on that plan. Okay. Motion on that one? You're on. Okay, move on to discussion and reaction on sewer rate increase.
No change. I guess I'm still confused.
Well, there's no motion, so there's no change.
Oh,
So carry on with your $800.
sounds good. Again, advertise it. If anybody wants to take it over, give me a call.
What's a good phone number? This is all recorded.
Golf course. Google it. Craig Meadows, Weston.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, sir. Have a good evening.
Michael, why rate increase for sewer is here,
Because it's a financial item.
or just for finance?
Yeah,
You gotta do the finance and the HR if you're sitting in that chair, Ching. I'm sorry.
Well, just a
Sign up for
question to
both.
know. I gotta know why it's here, that's all.
so this was brought to the Public Works Committee last week, Monday. For 2024, the Vermont Metro Sanitary or Sewerage District, which is the wastewater treatment plant that the majority of our wastewater flows to. They began a phosphorus removal project at their wastewater treatment plant for DNR requirements. And we knew we were going to be seeing a rate increase. We figured it'd probably be around $600,000. I guess our approach at the time was we had some fund balance and we wanted, I guess, more or less see what the actual true cost to us was going to be before we just kind of arbitrarily picked a number to go with. It's not necessarily arbitrarily, but Cronin, Mosby, Vermont, and Rothschild, they all increased their rates last winter. And a lot of them were fairly hefty increases. I think most of them were 70+% increases. As we get through July here, we seem to be probably running at about 20% the deficit. So a 20% increase should get us more or less back to where we were cash flowing or kind of breaking even in previous years. And then as we look at it moving forward, probably look at smaller incremental increases since the sewer rate itself hasn't been changed since 2017. And then so these tables show where we are locally. So we're the third lowest sewer rate. We have a 20% increase. We're still third lowest locally. Just get a little closer to the fourth highest, which is the city of Merrill. And then the discussion was if we increase the bill 20%, or receive 20%, how would we kind of go after that revenue? Sewer utility charges a base fee, which you get no matter what, whether you use 1 gallon of water or 5,000 gallons of water, you get the same base fee. That's for having the pipes in the network go into your house. And then the volume usage consumption fee is based on how much water you do use. So the Public Works Committee recommended looking at a 5% increase to the base rate and then the subsequent amount to the volume rate, which ends up being essentially a 32% increase to the volume. So that was the recommendation there. So overall, for a 12,000 gallon bill, it'd be a 20% increase, which is what is used as kind of that average residential usage.
I missed Public Works and I missed the minutes that you were gonna talk about this, but I did see it in our packet. And I have my notes here that I was gonna push for, what's wrong with average? Why do we have to be so low? And I actually thought we should go with where Rothschild is, but, average is what, 138, I think? I can't remember, you have something in here that says average.
Yeah, the average bill is 107.
Yeah, why not 119, 120? I just don't think and I know what you're talking about, Michael. We used to always be like this is a competition business. We've got to be the lowest. We've got to be the lowest on this fee, that thing. My God, things are costing a ton of money, and we just got to get our money back to help with these services and help with the utilities to move along and move forward. But I don't think it's prudent to be sitting at the bottom of this list. I think it's prudent to be in the middle of this list, even a little bit above.
Yeah, the 20% gets us to kind of our break even, or the sewer utility rate or net income, I guess, fluctuates annually. Historically, we've ran at a surplus. We've had a positive net income.
Well, I just wanted to let this committee know that I will be pushing it forward to go higher.
Sure.
I'll just leave it.
I think we need to really look at this. I mean, we can't just build our fund balance. There's no use in building a fund balance in the sewer utility. We actually have been using it for the last 2 years. It's probably very reasonable now, but our goal is to maintain, not build it up. So, I mean, I recommend doing the 20% and see if we need to do it again. But you don't wanna continue to raise it just to build a fund balance, you need that. It's a user fee based.
It's a not-for-profit, right? So if we can operate more efficiently,
No,
because
nothing is
your
for-profit.
utility guys are more.
But we have a fund balance in police, we have, other things too. Did we get that increase from our mountain cemetery district yet?
Yes. Okay.
That's where we're running out.
That's-
yeah, that's why we're running out of
deficit.
All right.
Yes, sir.
At the public work, we take a look at is, as what is gonna take to make up
Right.
the shortage what we have right now. And that will take care of the problem. And as Jim mentioned, the purpose is not to making money increase our fund, because we already have the surplus. By going with that 5% for a base, I think we keep the residential lower. But the people who use, because that's a user fee.
Right.
You use more water, you pay more for it. And that take care of it, that issue,
I'm convinced. I'm good.
so.
Discussion on that, we have a motion.
I recommend that the Board of Trustee approve to increase the Weston Sanitary Sewer base rate 5% and the volume rate by 32% for an overall rate of increase of 20% for an average of 12,000 gallon quarterly bill to be effective January 16, 2025.
Motion by Hushain to increase the base rate by 5% and the volume rate by 32%. Effective January 16, 2025. There's a second?
Second.
Second.
And we use January 16 because that's the beginning of a billing cycle.
So the first billing cycle of 25. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Motion carried. Commercial committee members. Rental committee member, remarks.
Good.
From rental chair, no remarks. Future items, next meeting date, October 21, 2024 at 4:30 PM. Thank you for your time. Look for motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Second? Second, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say no. Yes. Motion carried.